Welcome to A.T.A Talks About, your podcast show presented by the Aruba Tourism Authority, Create, and Sopi Mix Studio from the creative room here at A.T.A HQ. And welcome back, everyone. This is another episode of A.T.A Talks About Season 2. We've been shaking things up a little bit this season. In Season 1, we've had the A.T.A team as guests in every episode. And this season, we're inviting even more of them, but also a number of different stakeholders, partners, agencies, and other special guests, all in the hopes of getting a better glimpse and understanding of what it really takes to build a thriving tourism industry, such as the one we have right here in Aruba, and to keep it that way. In today's episode, we'll talk about Aruba's remarkable presence in Europe and discuss where we are today, what trends have been identified, and what the challenges are that lie ahead. So who better to tell us all about this than our special guest, all the way in The Hague. So let's say welcome to Tirso Tromp, the A.T.A Area Director for Europe, Jaap Ellis, A.T.A Sales and Marketing Manager for Europe, and Sharmin de Vries, PR Manager in Netherlands and Belgium. First things first, how's the weather?
Terrible. But that's good,
Not
because that means more
wet.
people are going to
It's
book
wet.
a holiday to Aruba.
Exactly right. So whenever the weather is bad there in Europe, we get to push them to come to Aruba for a vacation. Make that choice easier, I suppose. So welcome
Exactly.
back to Tirso and Jaap. You've been on the show last season. Sharman, this is your first episode with us at ATA Talks About. First things first. So tell us a little bit about the state of tourism in Europe, Tirso, because that's the market that you lead.
Thank you for having us again, and bon dia, bon tardi, everybody on Aruba. Well, Europe, we came out of the pandemic about a year and a half ago. It's crazy to think that I think less than a year and a half ago, still some countries were in lockdown or semi-lockdown. But the tourism industry overall from in Europe has bounced back quite well. Um, but now you do see that there is a challenging capacity with airlines. I think it's the same in the US. So a lot of airlines have trouble getting staff, especially ground staff and pilots. There's a high demand on pilots. So there's a lot of pressure on the airlines, and with the high demand, that creates an interesting playing field. Um, Also, the how you say that the sustainability topics are trending now. So there's a lot of discussions on how sustainable is travel, and that includes everything from air travel to travel by boat, cruisers, and car travel. So we also have to navigate through that landscape. Um, but yeah, just all in all, it's all positive. Tourism industry in general is back on track, and in some cases even better than pre-pandemic.
Awesome, back on track. Yeah, what are you noticing from your perspective?
Well, the feedback that we're getting is that there a lot of other destinations opened as well after the pandemic. Um, Continuing what Tirsa was saying is that Aruba back in 2022 was one of the only destinations that was open. So we had a lot of traffic to the island, also island occurs somewhere as well, of course. But now you see that a lot of other destinations open their doors, and people are willing to travel, and only they travel a little later. So that competition we see, prices are increasing, fuel prices are increasing, still people manage to book their trips because they really want to travel. So that's what that we can see in the market as well. However, people are very selective now. They're more selective than in the past. They know where they want. They know what they want. Budget is an issue. Budget is, of course, always um, the cost for the vacation is always very important. But yeah, I think people are back on track, and I think people are looking for more destinations right now to go to.
All right, so back on track, but the competition is also on.
Of
Sharman,
course, yeah.
Yap and Tirso, the both of them were with me last season here on location in lovely Aruba. I wish you were also here, Sharman, for your first episode on ATA Talks About. Um, but I want to let everybody get to know you a little bit better. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Sharmin de Vries, and what is your role at ATA in Europe?
Thank you. My name is Sharmin de Vries, and I'm the PR manager for the Benelux. At the Aruba Tourism Authority, have been for a number of years, having also previously worked for Aruba through an agency. So I've been with Aruba and working for the island for quite some time. And I focus mainly on the Netherlands and Belgium, with, of course, the Netherlands being our biggest market in Europe. So that takes up most of my time. And what I do is everything from press and media relations to content management, and increasingly so as the PR landscape has changed, a lot of influencer marketing with influencers and content creators setting up campaigns, doing events, and creating a holistic approach to working with different creators to promote Aruba's most important niches.
Awesome. And do you get to come to Aruba often?
I do, not often enough, but I do definitely.
So,
Luckily, I do. Yes,
so
and
that's
it's always a very fruitful visit, because whether it's marketing meetings, traveling with journalists, PR summits, there's it's always a mix of gaining more insights, experiential activities, seeing different properties. So yes, I
basically
always take stuff home with me that I can use.
exactly so experiencing Aruba to promote what you're selling.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we wish you have you soon. All the three of you, by the way, have you soon in Aruba with us. So let's get to the story of the day, which is Aruba's remarkable presence in Europe. So from recent conferences, we're seeing an increased effort to promote Aruba in European markets. I think you're the ones who know this best. Outside of the obvious, the largest market, Netherlands, British Airways is flying to Aruba. This clearly highlights it. So tell us more about this approach of expanding the European market.
Well, it's it's it has been a long road to get the BA flight. It's a partnership between AAA, so Aruba Airport authorities, and also AATA. So a while ago, a couple of years ago, we wanted to diversify outside of the Netherlands in Europe to get to grow more markets, not to be only dependent on the Netherlands. And we've approached different airlines in Germany, in the UK, in Italy, and so that was 8 years ago. And we just network and keep working and keep communications open. So this year we were happy to be able to welcome BA flying, and this enables us to grow the UK market to a level where it can become as big as the Netherlands in a couple of years' time. We feel that we do have the product for the British market, and it's always good to have a direct connection. Even though we always had flights from the UK via Amsterdam to Aruba with KLM, and in the summer season in the past, the charter with TUI UK, it's always good to have a direct flight year round, so the whole year through Aruba, which enables us to be present year round in the market with marketing, PR, and sales. And it also opened up a lot of new relationships with trade partners. So now we started working with, I think, almost 20 new tour operators, while in the past we worked maybe with a couple of seven, eight tour operators. So the whole network has grown considerably. And it also always starts with getting the airlift, and then you expand into the market. We're not done yet. Together with Aruba Airport, we're still looking for more airlift out of Europe. So I would say one down, a couple of more to go. But yeah, it takes patience, perseverance, and just what do you say, confianza, confidence in your destination and your industry. Aruba has a good destination, has a very strong industry. So I'm sure we'll be able to get more airlift out of Europe.
If I may continue asking about BA, just British Airways. As you've mentioned, it's been something in the pipeline for years now, and maybe business people can relate, and a lot of people seeing success, but it's not overnight. It's a process that's been in place for quite some time. Um, Give us a little bit of how that process was, what was happening behind the scenes, so people can really understand the work it takes to make such an airline as British Airways to decide to come to Aruba.
No, very good question. The Well, the airline industry is basically run by the planning departments. A lot of times people think you go to an airline, you talk to the marketing department, you show them your destination, everybody gets excited and they want to fly. But it's actually the network and route planners of any airline that decide which destination they fly to, if it's profitable, and they do the whole business case. So in that sense, the role of Aruba Airport is very important in this because they kind of do the first groundwork, because they go to it's called Roots. It's a conference, airline and airport conference, and that's where they make the initial contacts. And we, as ATA, from our side, we also contact the same airlines, and then we try to get together and then basically not attack but approach them from both sides. So from an operational side, which is the airport, and from a marketing side, which is ATA. And through that networking, just repeating, just meeting with them every year, in the first you have a courtesy meeting of maybe 20 minutes, you exchange contact details, but you keep following up. The next year you talk to them again, and the next year you talk to them again, and then little by little you try to provide them with more information on the destination. So we tell them what we're doing on infrastructure, the investments on the island, so new hotels, renovations, also what the government is doing on island, trying to convince them that Aruba is constantly in development, constantly renovating, constantly renewing, staying ahead of trends, and then also, making the case that a flight to Aruba can be profitable. So that takes, in BA's case, it took us 8 years. I don't remember how many meetings, but I would say on average, maybe 2 meetings a year in the beginning stages. And then little by little, you have more meetings and you go deeper. So then they ask more information, then you meet more people. And then when you start meeting the planning department, then you are almost in, because when you are on their radar, that is when they are really considering adding your destination to their schedule.
All right. What I also want to ask about, in this case, British Airways again. Was it the interest in British Airways, or was it a specific market you were looking at to approach?
Well, for Aruba, it's the target is to get direct flight connections. And in the beginning, we're not very picky. We just want a direct flight. Out of the UK, we had a couple of choices. So you have TUI UK, which we already had, which is a charter operation, which is a different business model. And then you had Virgin Atlantic, and you have British Airways. Basically, we negotiate with all three of them. So in the span of the 8 years I mentioned, we were in contact with all three of them. We ran business cases with all three of them. And then at some point, one of them will say, well, yes, this is something we feel comfortable with, or this is something we want to pursue. And then you close the deal. I mean, I can say it now with Virgin Atlantic, we came quite close a while ago. We were very close in closing a deal. It didn't materialize, but now we have BA. And with TUI UK, we had them. We also had good business cases with them, but they have a slightly different business model, selling packages. So their sales channels are more narrow. So, for example, when I mentioned that with BA, we work with 20 tour operators, with TUI UK, it would be exclusively with them. So it's a different business model. But again, Aruba is not picky. We just want a direct flight connection. Obviously, we want good airlines, but in Europe, all the airlines are good. So that's the starting point, just to get a direct connection into Aruba.
Okay, so that's the starting point. But how do you decide to pursue? So let's take the goal for increasing the European market right now. I've seen, I think I was in the conference in a couple of weeks back. We've seen that there's an increase in interest for the Italian market, also some German cities, I believe. So how do you decide? Okay, um, let's go for these markets? Or what do you base your decision out of?
Well, it's a partnership between AAA, AHATA, and ATA. So it's also the wishes of the private sector. So together with the private sector, we determine what the segment is that we want to target. So, for example, in Aruba's case, it's the affluent, the higher income, you know. And so then we look at, okay, what's the product that we have? What kind of hotels do we have? What brands? And then you look at the market. Okay, is there a segment, or are there segments in that particular market or country that match our product? And then based on that, you build up a business case. And with that business case, you go to the airlines. So, for example, we know in our case what the price level is of Aruba. I mean, AHATA reports on it every month, the average daily rate, the ADR, the RevPAR, the revenue per available room. That's also what airlines and tour operators look at when they evaluate a destination. So, based on that, you look for partners that can match the level of product that you want to sell in a market. And if there's a match, then together you continue with that business case, and then it can materialize into a flight.
How tough is it for you to sell Aruba, um, with the numbers being reported by ATA and AHATA on the RevPAR, etc.? Does it make your job easy?
No, Aruba is a success story, and so sometimes, yeah, for the lack of a better word, we can be victims of our own success. um, the positive side is we are not desperate. So, which sometimes you see other destinations, they are so desperate for airlift that they spend huge amounts of money just to get the flight in. So in that sense, Aruba is blessed. We we can choose, we can be patient. So we don't have to take any first offer that we get. So we're quite strong in a negotiating position. But yeah, being a successful island doesn't make it easy, in the sense that the other party also knows that, okay, if Aruba is doing well, how risky would it be for me to start an operation? How easy can I sell? And especially with partners that look at volume, they want to sell low rates, then Aruba is a bit of a challenge. And that's a challenge for us as well, because we don't want partners that only focus on low rates. But it makes it fun. So that's all part of the whole marketing of Aruba.
So let's dive in a little bit into the marketing of Aruba in Europe. Um, so obviously, you have different. If I look at Latin America, so we speak one language mostly. We also have some Portuguese and some Dutch, even English and French, but mostly Spanish. Europe, of course, is very diverse. We speak different languages. So once you target a market, how do you go about promoting Aruba within those markets? Let's say the Italian market, the German market, even the Dutch market. So that's already three different languages and different cultures. So take us a little bit more in the marketing of Aruba.
Well, you have to do your homework and find out where you want to be and where you're going and who you're talking to. I mean, even within Belgium and the Netherlands, I mean, Jaap and Sharmin can tell you all about it. It's a 1 hour drive, but it's a completely different way of marketing. I mean, in the Netherlands, when you have a lunch meeting can take you maybe 45 minutes. You have a sandwich, you have they joke about it, but in some cases it's true. You have a glass of milk, and that was your business lunch. In Belgium, when you go for a business lunch, you go for lunch. It's almost like a steak dinner, including wine, which is normal and standard there. And that's how you conduct business in Belgium, and that's how they find you credible. So you have to adapt your ways of doing business. Also, the how you say how you approach people in the Netherlands is very straight on, non-hierarchical. You call each other by the first name, quite quickly. While in Germany, it's very hierarchical. You don't call each other at first name basis. That comes maybe 2 years in. So you have to be very formal. And so yeah, you have to do your homework, and it's also figure out the business culture of the country that you work in.
Okay. And I presume you also work with agencies to help you in promoting Aruba. Maybe Charmin, you can tell
Yes,
us a little bit
definitely.
more of how
They are
it's.
key. Yeah, they are key to introduce you into the market and explain to you the nuances and the do's and don'ts in their market.
Charmin, take us a little bit into how working with agencies in the Netherlands and Belgium help you in promoting Aruba.
Now, for the Netherlands and Belgium, I work with agencies on a project basis. This means that we don't have a retainer with agencies, but what we do is we make use of their network, their creativity, their database. Currently, for Belgium, not working with an agency, but we have done so in the past. And we took part in a major blog event that agency organized. And here I tend to seek collaborations with influencer marketing agencies because I have my own network, but I want to expand, meet new people, really tap into that high end target audience that isn't always easy to find, as well as have the opportunity to network with other high end brands and see if we can forge collaboration. So that's more or less what we do. And for me, the most important thing is to really vet people properly and to see how we can benefit and tap into to not only their target audience but also their content creation, because that's becoming key right now. The whole landscape has evolved. I think that's another talking point that we're going to touch upon later as well. It's evolved to such an extent that reach and stats are not everything anymore, and it's really also a case of finding the right dynamic in terms of content, and what can they bring to the table to promote Aruba in an original way.
Yeah. I'm hearing a lot of networks. So the network growth network is very important. Tell us a little bit more about how important it really is. I look at you, Sharma, but also Jaap, chime in. Um, Without this network, where's Aruba?
I
Well,
think
if I
I think
may,
Aruba.
Sharm,
Okay,
go
yes,
ahead,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, no, go ahead, go ahead. No.
No, I
Well,
just
yeah,
there's
if
one. It's one point that I'm gonna pass it to Yap. I wouldn't say network is everything in the sense that you can't go out and promote Aruba yourself, but it is key to being present in the market and to being top of mind.
Yep.
I think why Aruba is so strong in the markets is because of our network. I mean, once you're from Aruba, it's the hospitality that makes Aruba visitors come back every year. That same feel and friendships with our partners in the market. We give them that Aruban feel and hospitality also here. While you're always top of mind to them. Well, remember that there are so many destinations in Europe, or at least out of Amsterdam, where you can go and travel to. To Vietnam, to Thailand, China, the US, the Caribbean, all over the Caribbean, South America. And that's where people are going. And you cannot only have that network or buy your um, your share in the market by spending a lot of dollars, hard dollars, but it's also who you know. And I think that relationship with the partners that we have here in the Netherlands, but also all our secondary markets in Europe, is a huge plus for Aruba in the European market, for sure.
And in your case, Jaap and Tirso, you're from Aruba. Does this help you being in Europe and to sell Aruba as well?
But yeah, I mean, if we go to other markets, if I cross the border here to Belgium, you have to behave differently. If you go, you fly to Italy and you join an event there, or to Germany, you know, you, you just flow into their way of doing business. And I think that's because you grew up in Aruba and you're from Aruba. It's in your DNA. So that helps definitely.
Yeah, so that
The
part of
culture difference
hospitality,
between,
the hospitality
yeah,
is within our DNA, and that's that
we know cultures, and that's a plus, definitely.
awesome. I want to get back into the promoting of Aruba, the marketing of Aruba. I heard you say you talked about influencers. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But let's talk about the trends that you're currently seeing and the reason why you then choose to follow these trends. And perhaps influencers is also one of them that that's linked to this. But what trends are you currently seeing that you'd like to follow or are following that we do not know of?
Well, the
No, no.
trends are now it also differs per age group. So now that you have this whole new age group, besides the millennials, you have Gen Z now as well. So experiential travel is becoming more trending. So people really want to experience something when they're on at a destination. So to Aruba, obviously, the beach is still and the weather is still the number one hook, more or less. But besides beach and weather, they also want to experience more things, and that's why I find it very nice in Aruba that you have also this young entrepreneurial generation developing all these new experiences and services. So yeah, I think Aruba itself is keeping up with the trends nicely, and we can make use of that. Another trend I also see is that yeah, it's still in let's say in its infancy, but people are little by little more aware of their carbon footprint, so
Mm-hmm.
sustainability, and you see a lot more companies as well, also partner companies focusing more on sustainability. I mean, one of our main partners, 𝐀.𝐓.𝐀, is investing a lot in sustainability, new aircraft, cleaner aircraft, CO2 reduction, compensation, reuse of materials, of how I say it's, spare parts of their planes. Um, so yeah, I think and Aruba is also doing a lot on that sense. And I mean, Sharmin works a lot in promoting all the sustainable efforts that we do on Aruba. So in my view, I think those two are the biggest trends at this moment.
And how do you promote, looking at these trends, what are you currently doing to promote to get these people on board? I look at Charmin.
Yes, we have done for quite some time, and I think it's interesting to note that we started doing this before other destinations did it, simply because we had more talking points. If you look at the solar energy in Aruba, a lot of efforts being made to reduce plastic. Single-use plastic is banned. Plastic bags. Reef safe sunscreen is being promoted, and you don't really hear a lot about what other destinations are doing, especially not our main competitors. So I think that we already had some leverage to promote these things without doing any kind of greenwashing. We just stick to the things that we're already ahead of the game with. And you notice that even though when you work with influencers or press, obviously these are people that will continue to travel, because there are also some that have stopped traveling because of sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people travel, but they really latch on to these stories because they want to showcase that even if you fly somewhere, it doesn't mean that a destination is not making efforts to be eco-conscious. So yeah, just throughout the years, I've been promoting and ramping up, the promotion of these talking points in relation to what people can experience. And one of the things that we're also doing is really focusing on low carbon footprint activities on island, because we have plenty, and sometimes we're not aware of the fact that there are so many things you can do that don't really require you to increase your footprint. We have a blossoming vegetarian and vegan food scene that we are actively promoting. Just recently, I organized a press and culinary event where a chef from Aruba cooked Aruban style criollo, but fully vegetarian and vegan, something that people didn't know could be done.
Mm-hmm.
So I think these are all ways that we can promote Aruba as an eco-conscious destination without telling stories that are not true.
Is this something we can see back in one big campaign, or are these separate campaigns geared towards different target groups or audiences? And is there a campaign that you're proud of that you can share with us?
You mean in relation to the sustainability
To all the current
niche?
trends that you're seeing, I presume you.
I think yes. I mean, years ago we started a campaign that we managed to roll out for quite a few years, and it was a photography collaboration with a well-known Dutch photographer who had already done a few exhibitions and was really making a name for himself, and also is one of the main news photographers for Dutch daily De Volkskrant. And we sent him to Aruba for 30 years of Staats Aparte to create an exhibition consisting of different Aruban faces. We really wanted to show the diversity of the island
Hmm.
through the diversity of its people, and with various backdrops, so that when people went and saw the exhibition, they would also be triggered by the different backdrops and the landscapes, but especially by the people, because I still think that's one of our main USPs, the people. And that was a huge success. We then included a famous singer who is also a photography enthusiast, who was a fan of his work, and created an on island photography masterclass for him to enjoy with that photographer, and to create a whole new dynamic and do a duo exhibition. And it went well. We traveled throughout the country, from Friesland to Brabant to Rotterdam, Amsterdam, you name it, and it ran for quite a few years. A photography coffee table book was produced in conjunction with National Geographic Traveler. And I think that was one of the first times that we could really delve a lot deeper into Aruba's culture and what it entails and what really sets Aruba apart from other islands. So that's definitely a campaign that I'm personally very proud of. But also the some of the influencer campaigns we've done. I'm also very happy with the way in which we're promoting one of Aruba's prime. I wouldn't call it a niche, but definitely something that Aruba has to offer, which is the workation.
Hmm.
We started doing this kind of relatively post-pandemic, because we saw the trend of people being stuck at home and thinking, well, if I don't have to go to the office, why not travel to another destination and enter into workation? And the island has everything in place. Hotels are taking part, Wi-Fi is good, infrastructure is good. And so from about 2021 until now, I've ran several workation campaigns, and I'm really seeing it grow, and more people being aware of the fact that Aruba is a terrific workation destination. So I think that's also a successful campaign with an ongoing trend.
If I may add, I can vouch for workation being a trend, a successful trend. And the reason why I say it is I have a team and we operate a co working space called Workspace. And during the pandemic, the people who kept on coming to Workspace were people from abroad on vacation in Aruba working. And they could have been from the US, Latin America. We had people from the Netherlands, even from Norway. We were surprised. But they showed up and they kept on coming. And I think that's also a reason why Workspace still is here, because people kept coming, especially because of the tourists, the visitors. So yeah, it's a self promotion, but keep on promoting workations in Aruba. We love it. So thanks for all that effort. And the one thing that you mentioned about a campaign, about the photography, the great thing about that is it's documented. And I think that's a great success for a campaign. It's been documented by the National Geographic. You have a coffee book. Um, what more can you ask for? Of course, more people coming to Aruba from Europe.
I think in a digital age, to see that a campaign that also relies heavily on print still doing well, I think is also something that makes us realize that no matter how much we invest in being online, that you can't really rule out documenting something in that way either.
I have a feeling that in the future we're going back to the what we call the traditional media now, because maybe that's something that will set us apart from what's happening online. But that's just me looking into the
Yeah.
future for myself. I don't know.
No, you're exactly right. However, we're also looking into the future on still what's out there in digital. I mean, with AI being here, not coming, but being here, we as the ATA are also looking into that, how we can piggyback on that, and how people search for the next vacation destination. Are they still using Google or other search engines, or are they just going to roll out a ChatGPT and saying, "Hey, listen, I want to have a nice beach, I want to have good hotels, I want to have," and they're using different tools out there to look at new platforms and channels to choose their vacation destination. So we as the ATA also internally are really working on that right now. We're planning a session with our media agency Dept here in Rotterdam, Amsterdam. They're going to give us a session about that. So we also, instead of us working with trends, we're also looking at new trends out there. What's new out there, and how can we use that to influence people to choose Aruba as their next vacation destination?
I like that you bring this up. And to close off this segment, I have one final question. What does the future look like for Aruba in Europe in 3 to 5 years?
The thing is that we need all partners to have a successful future. And you can see I don't want to close this off as in a negative way. You see what's happening in Amsterdam Schiphol. They're cutting flights. Schiphol is new law. They have to cut so many flights on a yearly basis. As Tirso said in the beginning of this webinar, he said, we're missing pilots, ground staff. That's an issue. So there's a lot of issues where we don't have control of that influences the travel to, well, in our case, Aruba. So we have to be constantly monitoring this and see where we and change our strategy or change our strategy or come with new strategies to get the right people to Aruba. So in about 5 to 6 years, I wish I could look in a glass ball, but I don't have that. And but we're positive. Aruba's always came out positive out of all the crises that we've in. So I don't see this as I see it as a bright future.
Awesome. Tirso?
Yeah, I mean, Aruba has a strong position in Europe, and especially in the markets where we are active in Italy, in the Netherlands, in Germany, UK, also in Sweden. We're a small destination. I mean, in Aruba, people think we have very big budgets, but in the grand scheme of things, our budgets are not that big. So we really have to shout very loud, and we do so, and we do so well. So yeah, we have a good image, decent awareness, good product. So yeah, we're solid for the next 5 years in Europe.
Awesome. Charmin, are we going to get more Dutch to Aruba compared to Curacao in 5 years?
I
That's an
wouldn't like
unfair
to make
question, I know.
such a prediction, but what I can say is I think we will continue to get high value tourists to Aruba, and I think that's what sets Aruba apart from neighboring and other destinations.
Awesome. All right, so I want to get into what we call wins and fails. And in this segment, I want to ask you, what are recent events or anything that happened lately that you might see as a win and some things that you might see as a fail? Who shall I start with? I have the tendency to say ladies first, but we can reverse that too.
Well, I
Yeah,
can
I
start.
mean, no, there you go.
Yeah, yeah, because I have a fail top of mind. We don't have a lot of failures to be honest, which is a good thing. But we do fail and we do learn. Failures is not bad always. But for example, with sports marketing, we've learned a valuable lesson where you always depend on the success of the athlete or the sports team that you sponsor. So basically, in the beginning, when they're successful, that's when you most of the time you enter the sponsorship deal. And then as you go along, sometimes the success, it disappears, and then it's out of your control as a marketeer because you're dependent on, the performance of the team or the athlete, and that can be tricky. So we've done sponsorship in the past with field hockey, which is one of the largest sports in the Netherlands. And through research, the data showed that that's where our audience is. It's an affluent audience that practices that sport, and we sponsored a team with people that were Olympic gold medalists. So we're like, this is set, this is solid. But then that's first season. For some reason, the success was not there with the team, and so yeah, it's that was a learning that with sports marketing, you give away a certain level of control, and you depend a lot on the performance of the athlete and the sports team, and that's something we did not take into consideration entering that journey. So I
Yeah.
think that was a big learning for us.
Yeah, good. I mean, we can take recent events from our sister island, who's one of the sponsors of Ajax, and that's not
Exactly.
a
Yes.
really nice thing happening right now in Amsterdam or in the Netherlands. So, not to your point, it's sometimes taking risk, and in cases that it doesn't really pak uit, like they say it in the Dutch, in Dutch, you learn from it, and that's a very important thing. Any wins you'd like to share, or Jaap or Charmin, wins and fails?
I think the
Wins,
wins
I
and
think
fails. Oh,
the in
sorry.
the yeah, and the wins are. Let me give you a win. I think overall, what we've been doing over the years is that we really use data and data and the numbers to build our strategy for a specific market and really target the niche and the specific household income and the postal codes in the markets. I think that's been a very good success and still is. How the team, not only in the Netherlands but also in Germany, Italy, and the other markets, um, came out of a very difficult uh, pandemic period, and so we want to build on that. So we're learning from our wins also. Keep on focusing what you're doing, keep on focusing on the niche, keep on focus on your target audience, and don't go away from your marketing plan, your strategy, and your tactics. um, Over the years, I think that's not only for Europe but also for the US and Latin America, and then also for Aruba. I think that's been a success, and if it's a learning, but we're just keep on doing the same thing.
Awesome, Charmin.
I think yes, the wins, as Ja pointed out, have definitely been the consistency with which we've promoted Aruba. So not diverting too much from the strategy, the target audience, who we're targeting, where we're targeting, and to add from on from my perspective to really be very niche focused. So we know which niches work, which are important, which are the primary and the secondary niches to promote on island spend. So to really be niche focused, because in the past that could maybe be seen as I wouldn't say it's necessarily a lose, but or a fail, but we were too generic because we just wanted to show that Aruba has more than beautiful beaches, which it does. But then you go all over the place, and in the end, it becomes a bit cluttered, and people still don't realize that Aruba has a lot more to offer than sun and beach. Whereas when you become more niche focused, you can really become top of mind for certain things. Like, for example, San Nicolas and the street art. I mean, so many people know about that now. More and more people know that Aruba has an incredible culinary scene. And I think, like, even 10 years ago, people might not have known as much about these things because we really wanted to cram a lot of things into one, or at least I did in the past, because I was just so set on showing that Aruba has more than just sun and beach, because that's really important in the Netherlands. So I think that's maybe not even a fail, but definitely a learning.
All right. So what I'm hearing is actually using the fails and turning them into wins. So big wins for everyone.
Yeah.
I I also
But
have a
if I can, there are
go ahead.
two practical examples of wins. One of them was from the Italian market, and it ties back to the quality of Aruba as a product and also the level of service that we're able to provide. In the US and Latin America, we have a very strong meetings and incentive business. So we have colleagues, Yerusha and Shade, they go to these countries getting large groups in. And in Europe, not so much. But a couple of years ago, when Jaap was present, we had the anniversary celebration of the largest Italian tour operator, the Alpi Tour Group. So it was really a win where we get our largest partner from Italy having their anniversary as a company on Aruba, being able to showcase our capacity to organize big events, with audiovisual, sounds, entertainment, all of that. So that was a big win because we also got a lot of PR out of it in the Italian market. And a more recent one is the fact that we got the 103rd KLM house, the little KLM houses
Oh
that they
yes, I
give
remember
to
that one.
business class passengers. I think we are the second out of the Netherlands. The first one was Curacao a while ago, and then we were the second. The fact that KLM trusted us as Aruba, as a destination, also to organize the event,
Mm-hmm.
because that was a big issue. They didn't want to, let go of the whole organization. But at some point, they said, okay, we trust you guys. And we set up a massive, event party for KLM on Aruba. And after the event, they told us, they're like, wow, this was by far one of the best launches they had. And I think previously one of their best launches was a little house from Amsterdam, and they did it in Tuschinski, Amsterdam. But they were like, wow, yeah, you guys really pulled it off. And it just shows the trust that they have in the destination, that we are able to pull something off. We knew that we could do it. So we just pitched them and said, let us take care of it. We got a lot of PR out of it, also on an international level, because KLM promoted that little house all over their network,
Across the
also in
board.
the US. So I think that was a big win on all levels for Aruba.
Awesome. Congrats on that, by the way. Was a huge event. I can remember it, and a successful one. And the numbers and uh, whatever you're getting out of it right now in marketing terms speaks
Mhm.
for itself. So congrats once
Yes.
again. And yeah, I think we're reaching at the end. So Charmin, Jaap, and Tirso, thank you so much for your time and for joining me for another episode of ATA Talks About. So to everyone, let's stay curious. Let's keep on exploring, discovering, and learning more about Aruba's number one and most important economic drive, the tourism industry. And allow me to close this one out. So this episode is a production of the Aruba Tourism Authority, Sopi Mix Studio, and Create. Be sure to follow this and other episodes of A.T.A Talks About on your favorite podcast platform. Until we meet again.